Hello, and welcome to the first class, the first session, and the beginning of a new journey when it comes to being in your power, in your intuitive voice. So, this course is all about awakening your intuitive voice. It's about getting to know what your intuition sounds like and becoming comfortable with speaking the language of your subconscious mind, of your gut, and overall of the universe. It's tapping into your mother tongue, the language you spoke when you were in the womb, the language that your soul speaks now and continues to remind you of every time you are in a situation, you are at a crossroads, you are in need of guidance. This is the language that your spirit speaks to you in. And sometimes it can be very, very quiet for us because it is ancient, it is ancestral, and there's a need to pull it and bring it closer to our present body, to our body that can listen in fullness and hear very clearly and understand, comprehend. And we are going beyond listening into a collaborative relationship of it's a conversation. It becomes engaging. You begin to not only hear the language, but speak the language and understand the language and resonate with it, and in turn begin to resonate with yourself. So I'm really, really excited that I can be here for you along this journey. This course in particular is actually the first offering of Awakening Ikaya when it comes to education. And this is because I think that the most important role that I can play as a teacher and as a spiritual guide here, as your fellow incarnating being, but also your fellow soul sister in this universe, is to make sure that you understand that ultimately you are your own teacher. Ultimately, you are your own source of abundant knowledge. And in order for you to recognize that and remember that about yourself, you have to be comfortable and recognize your own voice. You know, I could do something specific like teaching you how to read tarot, but you don't need to learn how to read tarot. You need to learn how you read. How does your voice sound when you look at a tarot card, and what does it tell you? You know, we all have a very specific and unique intuitive perspective and interpretation, and it's so important that rather than learning how to read as all other readers do, or learn how to navigate this world with the same intuitive process as somebody else, you learn your unique code, your unique path, your unique dance and flow. How do you freestyle? It's something only you can do. And so I'm not teaching you how I do things. I am just helping you remember the way back to your own inherent knowledge. So that's what this course is about, and let's get started. Now, the main thing to remember and to begin this journey with is this understanding that you are in a process of remembering. Remembering is the same as learning. It is the same as being taught. There is nothing in this world that we do not already know. You know, there is information that is perhaps stored very, very deep in our veins, in our gut, because it's not information that was given to us ancestrally or through an education system, but it's source. So that goes way, way back. That is the original ancestor before we even began to have incarnating ancestors from the lives of incarnating beings. That's the ancient knowledge. That's source wisdom. That is knowledge that you do not need to be taught, but sometimes you might need a little extra help remembering because it is way far back. And then there is information about ourselves that is kind of right beneath the surface. If we just dive in and we do a little bit of shadow work, then we begin to remember. You begin to remember your gifts. You begin to remember the way that the lives that you've had before you were here in this current life. You begin to remember how expansive the universe is. So it's all an act of remembering. And learning through that lens can be really empowering. And I encourage that you embrace the idea of remembrance rather than expecting that you are going to learn something new, something that is a shock to the system, something that you have never known before, never understood before, because it helps affirm to your spirit that you are connected to this ultimate oneness, that you are connected to this, what they call God or goddess consciousness, which in that sense is all knowing, in that sense understands that there is nothing outside of their realm of existence and possibility. All is known. The same way that within my own spiritual practice, I like to embrace the idea that everything is possible, everything is real, and it's just a matter of what you choose to allow to resonate in your personal life. Embracing this idea of remembrance confirms to yourself, confirms to your spirit that you truly do believe and know that you too are divine, that you too are one with source, that you remember your ancestors, that you respect and acknowledge them so as not to pretend as if there is anything outside of your reach. You are limitless, and that is a gift. So, that is the first lesson. Pretty quick, pretty brief. Everything is an act of remembering. If you can understand that, and if you can get comfortable with the fact that you already know everything that I'm about to tell you, that this lesson is not, new information, but rather just a memory coming back into life, perhaps voiced from a voice that you've never heard before, or from a person, from a body, from an energy that you're not super familiar with. But even in that sense, we do know each other. We must know each other because we two are connected. We're sisters, or we're siblings. We are family. Whether we're soul family or whatever, we have the same origin. We have the same ancestor, ancient ancestor. And so I'm your family. And so this information is your information. These codes that I'm going to give to you are the same codes that you already have within you. It's just a mirror helping you see. And soon you'll be able to turn away from this mirror and still know what's within you, because it was never about having to see it. It was just about having to feel it and remember it and bring it to life. So remembering. The style of this first session is actually going to be an act of manifestation, of following your intuitive voice. I am going to freestyle this first course. And the reason why I'm going to do this is, one, because today is a very important energy in our solar system, in our cosmos, and I want to ground it into the energy of this class in hopes that I will be able to extend this energy and kind of put it in like a vial and make it everlasting for anybody who ends up tapping into this course so that they can access the energy that is in the air right now. I'll tell you, it's the day that I'm filming this, it's February 28th, 2023, according to whichever calendar that would align with. And in the air, in the cosmos, there is a portal. We have entered this portal, and within it, pretty much anything is possible. Within this portal, within this energy, you can break a cycle, you can break a bad habit, you can shift, you can quantum leap, whatever word you want to choose. Either way, you can make a pretty big change that could become solid and that could reflect in your dream reality becoming that much closer to your present reality, and perhaps even becoming your present reality, simply through the act of trying, simply through the act of commitment. And so me beginning this course this way, just taking a chance and not perhaps planning everything out, because sometimes you're not able to be prepared for the changes that come. Like a spiritual journey, like a spiritual awakening, it is rare that you plan to have an awakening, maybe in your sacred contracts or whatever. But when you're down here on this earth, it hits you when it hits you. Usually it comes after a pretty big tower moment. Sometimes it can come at rock bottom. Sometimes it comes when things are going great. Either way, it shows up. You wake up when you wake up. You don't plan when you're going to wake up from your sleep. You just do, hopefully. And when you do, it's time to get started, and there's no turning back. And so that is the energy that I want to put into this course, because that is the energy of finding who you really are. It is cosmic, it is fate, it is destiny, and yet it also requires your free will. It requires your commitment. It requires your faith, your ability to believe that there is something here, there is magic here, there is magic within you. There is a voice that is speaking to you. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe that there is something calling you, not something outside of yourself, but something within. And in your attempt to try and understand this voice, to become closer to this voice, you are setting the intention that you believe in this existence, that you believe in your expansive existence, that you believe that there is so much more to you than perhaps you've been told or you've been made to believe about yourself, or that you've told yourself. That there are pieces of the story that you are missing, that you have forgotten, and you're ready to remember. This, as much as it is an act of trust and faith in your own spirit, it's also an act of unconditional love and commitment to knowing yourself. The fact that you have chosen to come here, the fact that you have chosen to be open at all, no matter how open you are to this process, you are already following your intuitive voice. Even if this process takes you away from this video, exits out after 5 seconds. Either way, you took a chance. Either way, you began the journey. You started walking the path. It doesn't matter where it leads you. The point is the commitment. The point is the intention. That's also what matters when it comes to building your intuitive voice, to recognizing your intuitive voice. The most important thing that I've discovered on my own journey is that it's all about intention. I began doing tarot readings about maybe a year and a half ago. I started just reading for my sister reading for myself and for my sister because I just liked cards. I loved oracle cards, and I just wanted to explore that realm and know more about it. And I had just began this spiritual journey. So I got myself a few decks and I would just shuffle the cards. I didn't look up how to read. I barely read the little info book that told you how to do certain spreads. I didn't follow anybody's instructions. I just pulled cards and started to interpret them for myself. And as I got deeper into the journey, I began to build a relationship with these cards. I began to understand them on my own terms. And then maybe I would go and reference the book. But I started off being my own teacher. And when it comes to your intuition, I think that that's really important, because you want to solidify that your foundation is built by you, that your foundation of knowledge and wisdom, it comes from you. It comes from within. It creates that tether to your voice that connects it to who you are. It connects it to your spirit, rather than having your intuitive voice foundation be connected to somebody else, be connected to a source outside of yourself. It's great to have teachers. It's great to lean on other people's wisdom, other cultures and societies' wisdom. All of that is amazing and absolutely contributes to creating a wealth of and diverse abundance of knowledge that can help grow your own intuitive perceptions. But ultimately, it's really important that if all else fails, you can return to self and feel confident in what you have to say, and know that your voice is your own and that you trust it and you have faith in it. And so I really highly recommend that in this journey to discover your own intuitive voice, you really focus on what you think, how things show up to you. Get rid of the stereotypical patterns and signs and all of the things that, we're taught to recognize as symbols and messages from the spirits and from our ancestors, and begin to recognize the patterns in your own life. I know that when I started this spiritual journey, angel numbers and dreams with, animals and things like that, I would go and I would Google all about what it meant. And whenever I would see 222 or 111, that would be significant to me. And that was where I placed most of the weight of my own like of the signs and the messages that that the universe would send to me. I would only trust what I already knew to be established as a sign, 1111. That's what would have meaning. And I would look up the meaning. I wouldn't define it for myself. I would just think, oh my gosh, I just saw this. Okay, well, what does it mean? Or even like the way that I would have a relationship with a crystal, it wouldn't be about what I personally felt that it meant. It would be about what the person in the store told me it meant, or what some other reader told me it meant, or what Google told me it meant. And most of my relationship with the spiritual tools that I had in my life, the spiritual resources that I had in my life, were given to me. Those relationships were informed by others. I was navigating my own spiritual journey based on a system that was outside of myself, which wasn't going to work because the spiritual journey is a journey to self. So everything has to, or it's really helpful when things come from within. And I find that it's a journey to get to this point where you realize that you don't need to reference anything outside of yourself, and that doesn't make you wrong, and that doesn't mean that you lack true education or anything like that. You don't have the credibility. None of that matters when it comes to spirituality. It's super, super personal, which I'm sure you know by now. And if you're just beginning your journey and you're at this point of recognizing that you don't need to be, initiated by anybody else or go to anybody else's teachings, that this is about you figuring out how you speak to yourself, I really applaud you. It's a beautiful place to be in such an early phase, and you should be incredibly proud of yourself because it can take a long time to recognize this. I'm still, having to recognize this. And it requires trust. Part of finding your intuitive voice is understanding the flow of it, and understanding that flow is a very complicated word in itself and concept. Flow is not always smooth like a river, just coming out of your mouth in an elegant and beautiful way, in a way that sounds good and is good and makes a whole lot of sense. For me, I had to get really comfortable with the fact that when I am in the flow, sometimes I'm stumbling over my words. Sometimes I take a little bit of a time to get to where I need to go. I have to pause. I might say a lot. I kind of question myself. Flow doesn't always mean that I just completely know where I'm going and I'm just, smooth as I don't even know. Smooth as what? It's not super smooth for me, but it doesn't mean that I'm not tapped in. It doesn't mean that I don't understand what's going on. And the reason why I really highly suggest allowing yourself to begin by just kind of exploring your own voice through freestyling or rambling is because it gets you comfortable with the messiness that is attached to speaking your language. When I'm a fluent English speaker and still I stumble, I get grammar wrong, I forget words, don't know words. I don't know every single English word that exists. I don't understand every single English topic. And yet I can speak English and I can understand it and I can write it and I can tell you a whole story with it and people can understand me. And when it comes to your intuitive voice, your intuitive language, it's the same thing. You might stumble. You might not really understand every single word. You might not be able to voice every single concept that's being spoken to you. It might take a while. You might have to go out and learn some of the words or the concepts that they're saying to you, that you're expressing. It might just be coming out, but you might not really know what you're talking about, which might make you stutter and kind of question yourself and doubt what's coming to you. But part of the gift of freestyling and rambling is that, again, it gets you comfortable with being in this space of the unconscious, of the unknown, of bringing the unconscious and the subconscious into the present and just having to trust it. It puts you in this state of constant faith. It puts you in this state of suspension of belief. suspension of belief, disbelief of suspension, something like that. You know, when you just kind of give some room, you give some grace to a movie or to a story, because suspend disbelief, suspend belief. I don't know. I can't remember what the concept is, but you know what I'm talking about. When you give a story some grace because you understand where they're trying to go, you understand what it's trying to do, what it's trying to say. And you have to give yourself that same energy, and you have to understand that that is also innate to speaking your intuitive language. Part of the intuitive language is that it's so ancient that it comes from nothingness herself. It comes from the unknown. So there is no way that you will ever fully understand your own intuitive voice. The aspect of darkness, the aspect of the unknown is inherent to the intuitive voice. That is part of the language. So there's always going to be a part of you that doesn't really know, that isn't quite sure of yourself. The self-doubt, that's all a part of the language. It's what makes it magical, because part of your intuitive voice is having faith. Part of understanding the intuitive voice is believing in yourself. Belief doesn't require proof. Belief doesn't require anything other than belief, other than faith. That's why it's called faith. You know, it's intangible. It might not show up in the physical at all, if ever. It might not really make a whole lot of sense to you, but something somehow just makes you feel like it's true, that you can trust this, that you're safe in this energy. And one thing you should always feel is safe in your intuitive voice. You know that you're speaking the language of your intuition. You know that you're speaking the language of your gut, of your subconscious, when you feel safe saying what you're saying. Now, that doesn't mean you don't feel a little scared. Doesn't mean that you don't feel a little insecure. As I'm doing this, I'm constantly questioning myself. I'm constantly going like, oh, am I making sense? Oh, God, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not stopping, because I don't feel unsafe. You know, I don't feel like I am doing something that is harmful to myself or to other people. I trust the intention. I feel the heart within my intuitive voice. There is heart in my intuitive voice. Your voice is never going to feel dead. Your intuitive voice, it's never going to feel lifeless. It's never going to be without feeling. When you are speaking from your intuition, when you are hearing your intuition, you are going to feel life within you. You are going to come alive. It's the same as when you're doing something that you love, you feel alive. You feel like you are finally back in the world, like you've actually woken up, like you're actually here, like you're really present. It's the same when your intuitive voice comes through. You feel like you are literally moving, like you are moving through space and time. You can feel that you're reaching into something, reaching into source, reaching into yourself, even if you're just sitting here talking to me. It's the same as when you listen to a reading, or you listen to a song, you find a movie, you see an image, and something so deep within you resonates with that it moves you. Something moves you. Movement is complex in itself, much like flow. You can be sitting here watching a movie and it's moving to you. There's movement. It moves you even if you don't actually physically move. Your intuitive voice moves you. It guides you. It guides your spirit. Sometimes it guides your body. But there is a part of you in which movement, a rhythm, a dance begins. Something is awoken into life. It comes alive. Movement is the same as life itself. It's the same as breath. It's life force energy. And that's what your intuitive voice sounds like. If you begin to get excited, if you begin to be a little maybe anxious and start to wonder where this is going to go next, and or start to overthink maybe a little bit, but still stay on the path, because that's how you know you're tapping into something special. That's how you know that you are somewhere that is rich, that you are somewhere that has a lot of potential, of possibility, and you just keep going. You don't need to know what you're going to say next. You don't need to understand how things are going to plan out. That's not what matters. What matters is that your voice is saying, oh, you trust me. Oh, you're listening to me. Oh, this makes sense to you. Okay, well, let me keep talking. Because your intuitive voice is also trying to get to know you. You know, your intuitive voice is this voice of the spirit. It's the voice of your soul, and it goes beyond your soul. It's the voice of the universe. It's the voice of darkness. It's the voice of the subconscious. It's an ancient voice. It's our ancestors, and it wants to feel just as connected to you as you want to feel to it. You both want to come into this relationship together and have a conversation that feels very true, that feels authentic, that you can constantly lean on. Your intuitive voice is your soul family and truly wants to be one with you, but it has to feel safe with you the same way that you want to feel safe with it. And so having faith and having trust as it guides you, as it comes out and it goes around this corner and maybe it takes a sharp left and blah, 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 blah. Trusting all of that and still allowing yourself to just flow with it, even if the flow feels like you're kind of being dragged. All of that, as long as you feel safe, is you building this relationship of trust. It's you getting to know each other. And the more you do that, the more easily you are able to be in this energy without constantly feeling a need to pull yourself out and get your grounding, get your bearings. You begin to feel grounded in this energy, no matter how chaotic it may seem to somebody else. It begins to feel natural to you, feel like a flow to you. And the best part about this energy to me is the randomness. Because in part of our universe and part of our ancestral DNA, our codes, our original foundation is the energy of randomness, which is also why I love to encourage people to freestyle dance, freestyle singing, freestyle writing, freestyle. When you're beginning to understand your voice, less planning and more just going with the flow, freestyling your experiences, your expressions. Because with freestyle comes randomness. You have no idea what's going to come next. Anything could pop in, and you just go with it and you build off of that. And it's that randomness that taps into the wealth of source, because you don't know what you're going to pull, but there's potential for you to pull something incredible. When you're picking from randomness rather than from a specific set of information, when you're just shuffling the cards just to shuffle the cards rather than shuffling for a specific purpose or seeing whatever, as long as it's just the intention to be open, it's that just the intention to receive, that randomness can give you the most incredible gifts, can extend your voice to the most incredible places and lead you to information that you didn't even realize you could access, that you dreamed of accessing, because you allow the universe to guide you. You allow spirit to guide you, to guide your voice into the places and into the realms, into the corners, into the shadows and shapes and figures that you didn't know you needed to learn about, you didn't know you needed to remember, you didn't know you needed to understand. One thing that I really have enjoyed when it comes to my own building of a relationship with my intuition and starting to recognize my intuitive voice is seeing what concepts I really enjoy talking about. And it's usually triggered by certain things that my intuition points me to watch. You can also understand what your intuitive voice sounds like by the type of media and art that you're drawn to. Everything is art. So any type of creation that maybe is connected to somebody else, something that is outside of yourself, like a TV show, like a song. When your spirit feels really drawn to just listen to that one, it just pops into your head, or it's just been on your mind for a while, and you start to watch, and then perhaps your voice, your intuition or your mind just starts to go other places or starts to build on these concepts, or a light goes off and you start to think more about this and you start to ask yourself questions, and maybe you're Googling something while you're watching this show or listening to this song. That is when your intuition is like, hey, there's something here. There's something that you remember here. There's something that's meaningful to you in this. Not just because it makes you feel good, not just because it really resonates, but because there's information there that you actually also know something about. There's something for you to contribute to here. There's something for you to build here. You have wisdom here. Not just the wisdom of somebody else, but your own wisdom. And you were led here because this is a space where you can contribute. When I think some of the richest information I had gathered so far in the spiritual journey, it happened in April and May when I had nothing to do. I had no job. I was just living at home with my dad, and not even bored really, but anxious about not doing anything and not having work. But I had these periods of just incredible writing, incredible downloads. And it usually would spring from this show that I was watching called The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I would get these downloads about the universe and the great goddess and Lilith and time travel. And then I would see something else connected to it and I would build. And these downloads would come from nowhere. And I wasn't, thinking I wasn't thinking about time travel or these concepts before, but they were part of the show. And then something in me felt connected to it so much so that I wanted to explore it more. And not from an aspect of, edge of being a contributor or anything like that, but just I felt an interest, I felt something pique in me, and I allowed myself to write about it and talk about it and random ideas that would come up. And then suddenly I was building layouts and plans and basically research papers that would contribute to these topics from a spiritual lens. There is information that you can gain access to from within yourself when you allow certain art forms and certain promptings to be gateways. And not everything has to be inherently or stereotypically spiritual in order for it to be something that is going to lead you into a new awakening or into a new remembrance from your soul, from your intuition. Our intuitive voice speaks to us in so many ways. And it's really exciting, but it's a process of really having to trust and have faith that where you're being led there's magic here, even if you don't think so, and even if it doesn't really feel like it. And also being able to recognize when you are trying to control the situation too much, trying to make something more than what it is. Do you understand the boundaries of when your intuitive voice just wanted you to receive this one thing and now it's ready to move on, versus when you latch on and you begin to feel like, well, this is all that I can do and this is what it needs to be. Part of the intuitive voice is the process of surrendering, of allowing things to be and allowing things to come and go. As you get closer to your intuitive voice, you begin to understand that life moves in seasons. You begin to really understand the elements, and you begin to really understand death energy, the process of having to let go. You will learn something, you will remember something, and it will change your life. And then you might have to move on from that the next day. There have been spiritual teachers and readers who have come into my life who and usually on YouTube, on platforms that are at a distance, but have felt very important to me, who I would be connected to, and I would really, really be all immersed in their worlds for a few days or weeks or months, and then something would change and I would no longer be engaging anymore. And it was hard to understand why I suddenly didn't feel connected, and it was hard to even to not feel guilty about letting go. But part of the thing about working in the spiritual realms and working in the healing arts is for me as a spiritual teacher, I have to be okay with the fact that perhaps maybe I'll be so lucky as to have students who are students for life. But more often than not, I imagine that I will really just be getting people who pass through, because it's rare that you stay in one place within your spiritual journey. You resonate with somebody for a while, for a moment or two, for a day, for perhaps just a video, for perhaps just a few seconds, just a glimpse. And then they're gone and they've received what they needed to receive. And timing is what it is. It's not what it is. Timing is not the way that it is in the spiritual realm as it is here. There is no time. So you could have given that person so many beautiful gifts within the time that you were with them, if it was just a day or perhaps years. And it's not a sign of your how much you have to offer, the value of your work, how long people stick around, and your ability to retain attention, retain engagement. It's not about that when it comes to the spiritual realms. And it's the same, and you have to understand that and become comfortable with that when you're working in this realm. So if you are a healer, if you are a teacher yourself and you are trying to get into this modality and really try and build a life for yourself based off of this, you have to become very, very comfortable with the ebbs and the flows, with the act of letting go and of remembering that your purpose is not defined by how many people you're reaching all at once and that are staying and sticking around. You know, there's almost nothing consistent but the energy of change when it comes to spiritual work, to healing work. You have to become very comfortable with that. And it's the same when it comes to understanding your own intuitive voice. It may lead you to this process, to this understanding this concept for just a few days or just a few moments. And then you have to move on. You don't stick around, you don't stay, you don't hoard intelligence, you don't hoard information, you let things be. If you have a concept that you're very, very passionate about and your spirit is giving you the signal that it's time to share this, but you feel that you don't have enough or you're not ready, those are those moments where you have to really practice faith and practice trust and begin to understand that, you know, there is no ready. You know, perhaps somebody else needs this information to become the foundation of what they're going to build and extend upon what you've offered. And not everything, completion does not always mean 100%. Completion just means that you've done what you needed to do, as if it's one big group project. Did you do your part? You did. Okay, well now it's time to move on, and accepting that that's okay and that you're safe to move on, that you're safe to let go, and trusting that your intuitive voice would never lead you to something just to leave it incomplete. It's complete whether you recognize it or not. You've done what you needed to do whether you recognize it or not. That's a huge part of beginning to build a relationship of trust, and understand your intuitive voice is also understanding when it's time to let go, when there's no longer a need to continue to focus on this. And the process of letting go within itself can be a very long, drawn out process. And perhaps that's because your spiritual voice, your intuitive voice is teaching you how to let go and teaching you the layers of letting go and the understandings of why you need to let go. They might bring something in your life just so you can learn how to let it go, you know? And that is an act within itself. And this course might be the result of that. I'm not sure. I was gonna make this like a 7-step course. This might be the course. This might be the video. It's just an introduction. I'm just here as a gateway. I'm just here as a portal to push you into your own depths. You don't need anything else beyond this. You don't even need this. Do you want this? Well, here it is. Here's a gift from me to you. But what you need is yourself. What you need is faith and trust in your own spirit and your own intuitive voice and your own inner guidance. It led you here. It's going to lead you even more incredible places. And you will begin to become the teacher. You will begin to extend that knowledge and create community with the incredible gifts that you share and that you have within you that come from your voice and this relationship of love, true soul alignment that you've built with yourself. So, yeah, I kind of feel like this is the end of the course. Congratulations, graduation, you've done it. I can't believe it went by this fast and now it's done, but that's what happens when you kind of just trust your intuition. I just got the thought to do this video and now I've done it and now it's over and I have to let it go. But I've got the process of now having a school, perhaps, a school of classes and courses and students, really grounding myself in the experience of being a teacher. This video could have just been an initiation. You are witnessing my own path, and now our paths are aligned, which is really excited because we want to become more interconnected. We want to become a part of each other's lives. It's very important that we feed and nourish each other. And so with this video, with this course, with this lesson, I offer you my support, and I'm very, very excited to know you and to know your energy and to be a part of, in whatever small or huge way, of your own growth and your own remembrance. It is a beautiful gift, and I am just welcoming you and pushing you along on this journey. So I hope you got exactly what you needed. And there's going to be a group attached to this course where you can go and you can share information and talk about what you've received, what you continue to receive. You can listen to this as many times as you want. Perhaps I will end up adding another course to this. Who knows? Who really knows? But for now, this is the end of this first lesson. So thank you. You've graduated. Congrats, you did it. And have a good night. Bye. Or good day, good afternoon. Just have a great life. Bye.